direction. Just look around and find at least something good. All you need will come to you. I'll never end your stare.
Welcome back to Two Canadians at Kafe Lise, a bigger podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Anton, and with me is...
DJ Spencer.
And today is episode 9, and we're going to be talking about consumables. Things that you may not take in a lot, not the healing type, but the other type of consumables. The ones that can help you play around with the map, or aid you in different ways, or even give you protection sometimes. But those types of consumables, that's what we'll be talking about today. We're going to be talking about these in order of rarity. So we're going to start with like the uncommons and then work our way to the more rare ones like the special issues. We'll be talking about strategies you can use with them, their costs and crafting times, and how much you'll get for deconstructing them. And these will just be all based on if you were using... if you're like starting from scratch, if you hadn't built any improvements to your shelter that helped with any of this, these are the bases for how much it costs to make one, how long it takes, and how much you'll get for deconstructing them. And we'll be going back and forth and just having a little discussion about each one, and then moving on to the next item. So yeah, that's what we're talking about today. As we record this, it's March 6th, so we're a few weeks, or more than a few weeks, we're over a month now into Season 7. Season 7 didn't introduce any new consumables this time around. It's been pretty common for the last few seasons that, you know, when they had a new season, there'd be something new consumable-wise, but not this year. Or this season, I guess you could say. And yeah, so I guess we'll see. Maybe when the next season comes along, there'll be something new to play with. But until then, this is what we got. So yeah, we'll just get right into it. The first one is the alarm trap. It's one that I rarely ever take in. I only ever take it in if I have a challenge related to it. And I find that its usefulness is maybe a little less than it used to be, just because now with car alarms being more prevalent, they sort of serve a very similar purpose, but they actually help you with knowing where somebody is by looking on the map. Because when a car alarm goes off, there'll be like a little red blinking on the map. You'll know where that person was when they set it off. The alarm traps don't have that. It'd be nice if they did. Maybe in the future they could, but it's not to say that they're totally useless. They might be good. If I pick one up, I'll consider throwing it down behind me as I'm moving somewhere, so I know if somebody's coming a direction I came from and I'm going somewhere else, so I have an idea of, someone might be close to me, so I'll wait and see where they show up. Cost-wise, there are 3,600 materials to build baseline. Take 5 minutes to build, so all the uncommons are pretty quick to build. Though deconstructing, they actually deconstruct really well in comparison to the other uncommon, which we'll talk about in a moment. You actually get 540 materials for deconstructing an alarm trap. So they're actually, if you pick one up and you don't use it and you don't need to get rid of it just because you want to clear up an inventory slot, they're not bad for deconstructing. You get pretty good materials out of it. How about you? Do you ever use the alarm traps?
No, I don't. Same
Yeah.
thing as you. Like, I'll never bring them in. I'll If I find some, I'll try to keep them to bring them out to
Right.
deconstruct. But I won't even use them unless really, I'm trying to clear the inventory slot and I don't want to just
Yeah,
delete it.
because you can always
Um,
delete something out of your inventory, but if I can, I'd rather use it. Just throw it down. I guess it depends on how much time I'm trying to save. Because if I'm worried
yes.
about time, then I'll delete it, because it takes time to pull it out and place it down. And if you're looting something and you're trying to fill up a slot, then you may not want to take that extra time. But yeah,
Exactly.
if my pack is full and I'm about to go loot something or something, I'll say, okay, I'm going to get rid of something out of my pack. I'll get rid of this alarm trap potentially. So yeah,
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 exactly. Um, Next on the list is the Decoy. So same thing. It costs 3,600 material, 5 minutes to craft initially, but you only get 180 material when you deconstruct it. Now this is something I'll actually play around with. It's not very often that I use a decoy, but I will bring some in occasionally. You can find it sometimes in Time Safe and Bard House occasionally. Um, but what it does is it's like a little box, and then you put it down, and there's like a little fuse, 2 3 4 seconds. It's actually pretty quick, and then it mimics gunfight. And what's nice about it too is it'll actually pick two different weapons that are found within your actual encounter lobby. um, so like, if you have an SG1 and an H bar, you might actually hear those fighting from the decoy, and then you know, you might get people that'll approach it or run away based on the
great,
sound,
yeah,
right? Uh, Now, for myself, I'll use it for a couple of reasons. Either I want to lure someone because some people, like a lot of people do third party. They'll hear firing, and they want to get in there before either the fight's over or just after the fight's over, so the person doesn't have time to heal. So like I'll put it down and then try to get them to push up just so I could turn around and I guess shoot them in the face.
yeah,
Trying to figure
in
out how
the
to say it nicely,
face.
but
Yeah,
uh, yeah, exactly, exactly. So I'll either use it for that, or I'll actually put it down and I'll try to reposition. Try to get someone to go towards it, and then I'll circle around or something
right.
like that. But those are the two main use cases that I'll personally use it. Um, like I like it more for the bigger maps like Anakin, FJ. But really, I could use that strategy for like pretty much any
Okay.
map. But those are just the ones that I kind of
Yeah,
prefer
and I
use
yeah,
it
and
on.
I've never bring them in. And I rarely ever run across them. I don't think, anyways. Maybe I do, and I just don't recognize it. Because I don't tend to see them a lot. I don't think in Bard and the lock container, which is the ones I will usually go for. Um, the lot the time safe is one that it's not my first one to run to if I'm near it, but I will loot it if I can. But it's just it's not my first choice just because of you have to spend so much time running around trying to find where the two switches are. And as soon as
Yeah,
you throw a switch, people know what you're doing. So that tends to be why I don't go for it as quickly. So maybe that's why I haven't seen as many decoys. But I do like the idea of them, like throwing them down to create a distraction so you can reposition, um, or like you said, draw people in. So that's all definitely really good. And yeah, if I have them, I've used them a couple times maybe, but yeah, that would be the reason I would use
yeah,
them too, for sure.
yeah,
Next would be the fake glint. Now we're into the rares, the blues of the material of the consumables. All the blues are pretty much uniform when it comes to materials and cost and all that. They are 4,200 cost to build, baseline, 10 minutes to build them, and to deconstruct you get 1,240 materials out of them. So you get pretty good return on that. Maybe even a lot better return than you do out of the uncommons, because when you look at 1,240 out of 4,200, that's a pretty good percentage you're going to get out of it, and that's just baseline without any bonuses from chemical distillation. Is it chemical? Yeah,
yes,
and water helps you build things faster, and the utility room
yeah,
makes things cheaper. Right? Okay. Yeah.
yes, exactly.
So you get a really good return out of the blues, 1240 out of 4200. So that's a pretty decent return. But the fake glints, the first one we're talking about, it's another one of those helping you to distract. Because when you look at a lot of these, like the alarm trap and the decoys, again, the alarm trap is not really for distraction, but it's sort of early warning. Decoy is good for distraction. Fake glint, again, good for distraction. You put it down somewhere, and it produces the same kind of glint that a scoped weapon will have. So any of the rifles that have a scope on them produce a glint, whether you're ADS with them or not. As soon as you're aiming with them, they have a glint, and that's what this fake glint is meant to replicate. They do have like a sort of a random pattern to them. So if you're watching them, it'll maybe glint a couple times and then go away for a second and then come back. If you watch it long enough, you'll realize, okay, no, that's definitely a fake glint. That's not somebody aiming and not aiming. So, but it might give you enough time that you can get around somebody. If they happen to take a few shots at it, someone's being distracted by it, then you can position and hopefully get them, or fake somebody out long enough that you can swoop in and grab something that they may not um, take into maybe like the drop or something, right? You could swoop in and try to get the drop, distracting somebody with a fake glint, worrying that, oh, maybe somebody's watching this drop, kind of thing. Depending on where you put it, could make a big difference. I actually had a game where I was on battery. I think it was a spring battery, not drog, battery drog, where I was coming down from ponds towards the pier area where there's a couple red houses and there's an exit there. And I was coming down and I was close to the road and I saw a glint between two vehicles on the road down by those houses. And so I thought, oh man, there's somebody aiming from there. So I got up there and I was trying to take aim at the person, but they were actually off to the side and they saw me and they capped me before I could realize what was going on. So it was a really effective use of it.
Oh yeah, and uh, like again, like you said, I won't bring one in unless
Yeah,
there's a
and quite often they're
challenge. But
challenges.
like
Yeah,
like I won't. I won't usually bring one in, but I've seen some creative uses, and like I've done it once or twice there just to kind of like play around
yeah,
for fun, where like Sogbrook, you have the cliff side there, kind of overlooking the sawmill, and then you put a bunch along there scattered, and it's like kind of looks funny because it looks like there's a bunch of snipers or scopes looking
yeah.
down into that like kind of valley. So it's kind of fun,
Well, it'd be a
but
good way to distract if you
I
were up there and you're trying to snipe and you put a few fake ones near you, off to the sides of you. People won't necessarily know,
yeah.
okay, which one's the real one? Where am I looking? And you might be able to catch somebody distracted by the wrong one. Yeah,
Yeah, and like I guess the only time I've actually brought a couple in was on FJ2 just because like there's so many hills
yeah.
and mountains, right? And I'll tend to like put it at the top, but like it's very rare that I'll actually bring one in.
Not to
Um
actually use. Yeah, if I pick one
but
up, then I'll probably use it to get out of my inventory especially if I want to pick something else up. But yeah, if but it's always when you're placing them, always good to put them, behind a rock or something, so that it's not quite as obvious that it's a fake glint. If you just put out in the middle of the field or whatever, people are going to see the glint and then scope in and like, wait, that's a fake glint. They'll be able to see what it is.
yeah, a stick with like a mirror on it,
Yeah,
right? So uh, you definitely want to be like aware of where you're gonna put it and be a little
yeah,
strategic
for
with
sure.
that. Um, Next on the list is the jammer. So the jammer is actually what spawned the idea of the disruptor tower. So it's the same kind of concept, just on a more portable, smaller scale. So you put it down, and basically it blocks any signals from coming in or out. So if anyone like hits the uh, signals detector or a portable signal detector, your signal won't be found if you're within the radius of it. Now it is a small radius. It might be like 10, 15 meters. I don't actually
Yeah,
know what it is. And we were talking about this just before. Um, at one point when you put it down, you actually saw the
Yeah,
symbol that you were within the radius, but then at some point that changed, and now it's only other Outlanders that will see that symbol
yeah.
when they come within
I'm
that
not sure if
radius, which I didn't
yeah,
realize when that change came into
yeah. I'm not
effect.
sure if that was a mistake on their part, like they didn't if that's like a glitch or if that was on purpose, because it is really hard. You put it down because the person who puts it down isn't affected by it, so you can still use any portables you have. You can um, yeah,
You could
you
see
can see
everything on the
everything on the
map.
map. As opposed to like with the yeah, well, but basically you can see everything and other people can't see you. But you have no clue how big it is. You no, it has an audible clue. So I always go if I can
Yeah,
hear it, then I got to think I'm hoping I'm covered by it. Um, but like when you look at like something like the disruptive tower, when someone uses the disruptive tower, if it wasn't you, there's like it's noticeable on the map. There's like a big circle of where it
yeah,
is affecting because it shrinks. The jammer doesn't shrink; it's consistent the whole time, but there's nothing on the map showing that it's in play unless you happen to walk up to it or walk up to its affected area, because all of a sudden you'll see a little red symbol on your map showing that oh there's a jammer around, and then yeah when you open up your map, not on, I said jammer or symbol on your map, I meant on your compass. But when you open up your
yeah,
map, if you're near one and you're not the person to put it down, you won't see anything on your map because you're jammed at that point. Um, so I don't know, yeah, if that's on purpose that you can't tell anymore if you're the person to put it down how big it is, but that is something to be aware of. Yeah,
yeah. And like I enjoy the jammer because like I won't bring one in, but like if I find it in on a map in an encounter, because since season 5 you've been able to get some consumables out of vehicles, and especially like everyone knows about the truck on battery at the radio
yeah,
mast, where you get pretty much like almost everything, right? Well, at least the
a lot
rare
of the good
ones,
ones. You get yeah,
and
because you get a
yeah, a
transmitter,
lot of
a
good stuff.
jammer, you get a
A
mortar
mortar
strike,
strike, you get a
portable
portable,
signal, and maybe even a fifth thing. I'm not
and
sure.
no, I don't. I think that's it. Actually, I think it's the four, and then you get
Oh,
wire
maybe that might be
or
what the fifth
something
thing
like
is. It could be just some resource. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So what I'll do if I find it within one of those vehicles, um, is I'll use it for a variety of reasons, but pretty much the same tactic is so I'll put it down if the airdrop is not stealth, and I kind of want to give myself a heads up or a head start towards an exit, um, and no one will be able to see me, or if I'm threat and I kind of want to move areas a little bit more because they won't be able to see me because when you're threat, you're on everyone's
Yeah.
map and on their compass, so they can see you. And also when you're in a phone
Okay.
duel, that one is kind of fun, and I'll use this tactic even with the disruptor tower. Is I'll wait till like the phone duel is close enough, and then I'll trigger it or put down the jammer, and then that way they can't see me anymore on the
Yeah.
map, right? And then I'll actually like reposition, and then once they kind of come closer to the area, then it's like easier to get that first shot in because they don't know where you are
Right.
anymore,
Right.
right? Yeah, the jammer is definitely very useful. I find it's just I won't bring one in
Yeah.
particular into
And I'm the
enemies.
same. I won't bring one in on its own, but if I find one, I'll definitely use it. And I never thought of that using it with like your phone duel or if you're well threat. I rarely ever get threats, so but I do get phone duels on occasion, so that's a neat idea. Use it for a phone duel if you're heading towards them, and then you get to the point where you're close to each other, and then use it so that they don't know where you are anymore, and then reposition a little bit so that you can maybe see them and get them before they realize where you are. That's a good idea. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And it's like if you want to stay hidden from like the signal detector or a portable too, like you could use it for that. But that's not like any of the use cases that I
no,
typically use
yeah,
it
for
for.
sure. Next one is the transmitter. And for me, I almost think of the transmitter and the jammer almost working together a little bit. But the transmitter is nice because it's like a little stick with a bunch of wires on it, and it basically replicates the signal of a Outlander. So if somebody's using a portable signal, or if somebody's using um, the signal tower, they'll see a signal on the map where one is. So you have to be. I almost want to think you want to be quick when you place it down, and then move so that if somebody's using the signal tower, they don't see the two signals next to each other. So they give them a reason to think that that other signal may not be a proper Outlander. So if you put it down and run away from it, then better chance of them believing the lie. But another good thing is with
Yep.
the portable signal that we'll talk about a little later. If somebody uses one of them and you place one ahead of you, they'll see it and not you. So, but if it's
Yep.
within a time frame that you're pretty close to it when they place it, sure they're gonna. It almost doesn't matter. They'll see the thing. You're behind it. Regardless, there's a signal in that location where you were. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
but it is better to put down and maybe mess with people. I've started if I pick up a jammer and a transmitter in a match, I'll put the jammer down, and then a little ways away, I'll hide a transmitter as well, so that if somebody finds that jammer and gets rid of it or breaks it or whatever, and then they port, a good chance that they'll hit this transmitter that I put down, and waste a port or something, or not know what's going on. So I started doing that if ever I have the two of them together. Now they both make noise. Like the jammer, we said makes quite a bit of noise when it's out. The transmitter makes
Yep.
some noise as well. Not as much, but it still has a noise print. So if you're near one, you'll hear it, and you'll probably know it for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
And like you could disarm it by, I think it's pressing X on
I
the
think by
Xbox.
even running
Um,
through it, I think will destroy it. Yeah,
yeah, it's a very flimsy item, and I think pretty much any of the those things you could destroy them just by
yeah,
running over them there.
yeah,
But there is like a prompt to take it
yeah.
down. But
And one thing I discovered today, I had a challenge today to use the signal detector to detect 15 signals or outlanders or whatever, and I had a challenge to place 10 transmitters in a match or any matches, within as I'm using them. And so I would take a few transmitters in with me and place them around the map. And then in my match, I got to a point where I got to the signal tower because I was, of course, starting across the map from it. And when I hit the signal tower, the only signals I could see were my three transmitters and one or two outlanders, but they counted. So it counted as if I had seen outlanders, even though I knew they were my portables where I had placed them. So that's actually really handy. So if you ever have those two
yeah,
challenges together, take a bunch of transmitters in with you, place them around the map as you're going, and then hit signals, and they'll count, no matter how many people have left. So that's pretty cool.
yeah, that's good to know
Yeah,
actually. Yeah, and like I know like this is one item again like I won't usually use, but like I've been on battery where like we know it's an 8-person
yeah,
map, right? And I've hit signals and I'm counting the signals and there's like 10 to 12 people on battery on a solo map and it's like no this is someone's playing around with transmitters
yeah,
and like I've seen some people try to write messages or they'll try to draw shapes on the map and stuff like that
yeah,
with them but just kind of like fun stuff
yeah,
goofing off with it and stuff but yeah it's definitely something that I
yeah.
don't use too often
And
myself.
that's another thing, like with the transmitters. If you like use signals and then you happen to hit signals again and they haven't moved, it's going to be a transmitter, and they don't cause the camping alert like an Outlander does.
The
Yeah, they
anti-camper.
don't have the
Yeah.
they
Okay.
don't trigger the anti-camper measures, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. It's probably a good thing they don't trigger them, but on the other hand, they become less effective because they're not triggering them. It'd almost be if the anti-camper detects a signal in the same spot for a while. It'd be interesting if they could trigger it, but I don't know. That'd probably cause a lot of anti-campers to go off
Yeah.
and be really annoying. So
Well, technically, after the first anti-camper, like the mortar strike would
yeah,
destroy it,
you would think,
unless
unless
it's
it's
in
in
a
a building.
building, right?
If someone sticks it in a building, you son of a bitch, because it's just going to keep going off
Yeah,
and never get destroyed. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I guess moving on, next on the list, we're up to the military grade
yeah,
purples, um, and we're going to start with the armor plates. So the armor plates started last season, the
yeah.
Junkers. Um, I honestly, for myself, and I'm sure a lot of people, is the armor plates are probably one of the have to haves in in an encounter. Like I'll only bring one um, per encounter, but I've seen people carry
Okay.
multiple. They only stack in like one single
Yeah.
spot in your
Each one will take
inventory,
up
so
a
you could
whole
only
slot.
carry one
Yeah.
per slot. Yeah, sorry, that's what I'm trying to say. Words are hard
Yeah.
sometimes. Um, but yeah, so and basically what it does is it'll protect you from body shots. It'll take the hit. Unless it's a headshot, then you'll take actual
Yeah.
HP health. Now, there's been times where like you'll get a headshot, but it's not like a full kill, so you'll actually lose HP and not damage off the
Yeah.
armor plate. But and then you can't replace an armor plate unless uh, the whole
Plate's been gone.
HP of that plate
Yeah.
is gone. So if there's like 10 HP left on it, you can't put a fresh one on. You'll find it in the Bard House, and um, I think that's it. But you'll find like parts
Yeah.
in Time Safe, I
I
believe.
think so.
Um, so like definitely you want to make sure you grab those parts if you can, and then it's a free plate that you could acquire. I think you need 6 parts, I think, to get one plate
Mhm.
crafted. But then we should talk about the cost. So cost for all the military grade stuff is 7,800 material. Um, Crafting time is 20 minutes, and deconstructing it will give you 1,950 material. Now, I don't see anyone deconstructing armor plates. Um, but obviously, it's a very useful item to have. And honestly, like I said earlier, it's almost a necessity, especially on the sniper maps. Well, actually, in any case, because sniper maps, you don't want to get tagged without knowing. And then if you're, say, on battery or a map with a lot of bushes, you don't want to get caught off guard by someone hiding in a bush or something like that. So it's definitely very useful to take a first couple of shots and save you in that
Mhm.
aspect. Um, the one tweak I think I might want to say is maybe limit the number of plates people bring in or something
Oh,
like
okay.
that. Because I have seen people carry like a ton of them in,
Mm.
and especially with like um, people kind of gaming the insurance system. Like we're not going to get into
Yeah.
that, but I think doing that and limiting the amount of plates that are brought in might actually detract that from happening.
Could be. Yeah. And yeah, it almost makes sense because like carrying like 3 or 4 armor plates in does seem kind of excessive. Like 1 or 2 maybe. And you have to spend some time to put them on. Another important thing to mention is they'll stop a bullet, like they'll stop a full bullet, like even if there's only a little bit of the health left of it. So it doesn't seem to have bleed through. So if you if you
That's
have like
correct.
less than a quarter of the plate left and you get shot right in the chest with a high powered rifle of some type, it'll stop the full shot. Now if it's like a burst round rifle and it stops the first bullet, but the second one gets through, well, not much you can do about that. But even if there's partial armor left on the plate, it will stop the full shot, full single shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh, and it should be mentioned too. If you use a plate and it doesn't take any damage and you leave the encounter, you still lose that plate.
Yes, it's gone. You know, as soon as you've
Yeah,
with
it's
pretty
gone.
much any consumable, as soon as you pulled that trigger and done it, it's used up. So that
Yeah,
includes armor plates. Yeah, I guess the process of rubbing it on your chest makes it so that it's gone.
yeah,
Yeah, even after you leave. Yeah. Um, and that armor booby, not booby traps. Armor plates are one of those things that I don't really take in a lot myself, unless I'm doing duos. If I'm playing duos or trios, then I'll consider taking it in because I know I'm going more combat oriented in those situations, and so there's a better chance of me getting killed. So then I'll usually take them in with me. But if I'm playing solos where I'm being more stealthy, then yeah, not as much chance that I'm going to take one in with me because I'll just be wasting them, especially if I'm like sneaking around, not trying to be noticed. So yeah.
yeah.
Next up is the booby trap. Booby trap was fairly new. It was introduced. Was that in Junkers or was that in Reneg?
Season 5, I
Yeah,
think.
the Western one, right? Yeah.
Yes,
So and that was called Renegades. Yeah, I
I
think it's
think
called
so.
Renegades. That's when they introduced the booby trap, and that booby trap's a little strange one. It's something you can add to a container. So I'm not sure if there's a limit to what containers it can be, but I know you can add it to stuff like I think the drop is one of the things you can add it to a locked safe or locked container, not like a padlocked container. I think a few other, even vehicles. I think you can add them to vehicles as well.
Yeah,
And what it is as soon as you've added it, if somebody else comes up to that container of whatever and interacts with it, they'll get a pop up saying, "Oh, they have to do a key combination to avoid it exploding." It's the same thing that'll happen that you can add to the drop through the comm stations, where you can booby trap the drop. It's the same kind of thing. You have to hit the combination. If you fail, it'll go off and you'll take some damage. You can X out of it and run away from it, and then it'll go off and you won't take any damage. But yeah, it's the same kind of thing. Just you can add it to other containers. I
yeah,
rarely ever see these anymore. I know you can still get the plans for them. I know I have them, but I never take them in. Even when they first came out, I never used them. So this was kind of a weird outlier for consumables. I don't know anybody actually uses
yeah.
them.
I, I'm in the same
Yeah.
boat. Like I don't think sorry, I have brought one in, because like I'll do a like I call it unarmed warrior type thing where I don't bring in a gun, but I'll bring in like uh consumables that will
Oh,
do
okay. Okay.
damage, right? So like contact
Yeah.
bombs, booby traps, stuff like that. Um, and I actually found out something very interesting in one of my runs because I actually booby trapped a vinyl collectible,
Oh, really?
and I actually clipped it. So there's a clip on my
Yeah.
channel where I actually booby trapped a vinyl record. Now, did anyone actually go for it after the fact? I
Right.
don't know, but I saw that and I was like, I didn't know what to say. Like I was so excited because it actually worked,
Interesting.
right? Um, so yeah, who'd have known you could actually booby trap a vinyl? Um, but yeah, it's definitely one of those things where I won't really use. It's funny because when I had read that the booby trap was coming out, I thought I was going to use it on everything, and I just never used it.
Yeah.
Like
Well, generally, because in general, you're looting everything, right? So you're taking everything out of a container, and then that container is no longer usable. So you have to leave something in it in order for it to be booby trappable, because then it's not
yeah,
open. Once it's opened, it's gone. But you can go into something, not take something out, then say, okay, I'm going to booby trap this, and it might be good. And I think about it, it'd be kind of interesting to do with. Because there's a lot of gun parts, a lot of things that have gun parts out there. Sometimes you're hoping for something good out of a regular, like sometimes those blue boxes Um,
Yeah.
and sometimes you open it and it's just a gun part. It's like, oh, that's useless. I don't want the gun part. I want chemicals. Then I could see, oh, maybe that would be a good time to booby trap something. But I'm not going to bring a booby trap in for that one occasion where I find something that I don't want what's in it, so I'll booby trap it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And like the it was kind of like mentioned too, I think, on one of the dev streams, just about the contact bombs and the booby traps. Is the point of these weapons is not to like actually kill someone, just to inflict a little bit of damage
Right.
to them,
Yeah.
right? So like you're not getting a full kill out of this. You're just, I think it's like it also depends too, I think, on the size of the container too, for some reason.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah. It may not be able to
um
do small
but yeah,
containers. Maybe have to be a certain size.
yeah, and if they don't get it right, well, then the contents are destroyed, right? So
Are they?
um
Oh, I didn't
yeah,
know that. Oh, okay.
yeah. So same thing with the airdrop, I believe. If you don't get the code right, the drop is
Oh,
fine, but if someone boosts
oh,
or reinforces the drop, the consumables are destroyed, I
okay. I didn't
believe,
know that. As
as well.
I've seen like people run away from it on the airdrop all the time, and like they can still get the airdrop. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But if it destroys the little stuff, okay, that's cool. I didn't know about that. That's neat. But again,
Yeah.
is it not that
Um,
I'm going to bring one in? No.
no. It's one of those little like trolley consumables,
Hmm.
right? So next on the list, I guess,
Yep.
would be the contact bombs. So same thing. It's not to actually get a kill, but it's just to inflict a little bit of damage. I think it's like 30 HP or something
Yeah.
like that. But basically, it's dynamite. It's like three sticks of dynamite, and there's like a little air radius area that appears. So if someone runs over it, it explodes. Now you do hear an audible sound. It's almost like a hissing sound. I I almost think it sounds like the switches for the time
Yeah.
safe.
People have said that before.
It's very
Yeah.
similar, right? It's close. It's almost the same, but it's not quite like. Um, Now, to get a full kill, you need like quite a few. I think it's like five or six. So it's probably more less than 30 HP for
Hmm.
damage. Um, but again, it's not something I often bring in. I played around with it. I got a kill on FJ. I had planted one at
At an exit.
the
Yeah, I saw
exit,
that.
and yeah, and then I got in a fight right at the end as the radiation was coming in. The guy was low. He killed me, but then he's on his way out and he hit it, and then he
Because he was
died
so
too.
low. Yeah.
Uh, he was so low, but uh, yeah, it's just not something that I'll bring in. I have a ton of them too. Like I think I deconstructed a bunch of them, and I still have like 60
Oh wow.
plus in my inventory.
Yeah.
But you're getting like almost 2,000 material, like if
If
you
you haven't
haven't
boosted yet,
upgraded
yeah.
any of your
Yeah.
shelter. So it is something that's very valuable. So I'll definitely like take it out, and it stacks in piles
Yeah.
of three in your inventory.
Yeah,
So
and it's one that quite often people are using three. Like if they're bringing them in, they'll put three down like
mhm,
at signals sometimes or whatever. They'll put a cluster of them together real quickly, and
yeah,
because they don't activate right away. It's like you have like a 1 or 2 seconds before they activate, so that they'll put one down, two down, three down, and run. And yeah, they
yeah,
do make a noise, but sometimes when you're running and you're not fully paying attention, you're more worried about who's around you. You don't hear it right away, and then all of a sudden, boom, you run into it. That's happened to me a few times,
yep,
more than a few times. Yeah.
same.
So yeah, they're actually part of one of the more useful little traps that are out there because of the damage, because of all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually if someone triggers the contact bomb, it's pretty
Yeah.
audible, like almost throughout the whole map, really, because you'll actually hear the boom.
And that's sort of like
So
the one like the booby trap on the drop too, because when it's booby trapped and
yeah,
someone sets it off, you hear it across the map. I'm not sure about the little booby traps if they also make that much of a noise. To tell the truth,
Yeah.
because no one uses them, so it's hard to know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, the contact bomb is definitely a useful one, and you'll definitely
Yep.
see people using them. And I'm not sure if there's a
Yeah.
challenge related to contact bombs or not. If there is, I never see it.
I've had a couple,
Okay,
but yeah, they're very far and few
yeah,
between.
okay. Next is probably the most popular one out there, and it's the portable signals detector. Um, you'll if you watch streamers, you'll see a lot of people who will definitely bring one or two or more in. Sometimes the really sweaty players, you'll sometimes see somebody with five or more carrying around with them, and they just use them like candy. And because they're just so useful, um, you use one and you see the closest signal to you. Now, if it could be a transmitter, but more than likely it's going to be another person, or you're trying to find somebody. You know somebody's close to you, but you don't know where they are. They might be in a bush, or they might be behind a tree, and you just can't see them. You use the portable, and because it's doubtful anyone else closer to you than them, they'll show up on your map, and you can narrow down. Okay, that's where they are, and you can then decide what you're going to do from there. But yeah, it's probably the most useful thing. I personally, I don't generally again, it's not something I bring a lot in with me. I don't bring them in with me unless I'm playing duos or trios. But if I find one
Mhm.
on the map, I'll definitely use it. Because
Yeah.
it's good, especially if you're worried that I want to go for the drop. Is someone camping it, or is somebody close to it? You fire off a
Yeah.
portable, and it'll tell you if someone's close to you, and hopefully the drop. Now there can be a situation, and it's a bug, where you use a portable, and I think it's if you open the map too soon, or maybe there's something else that triggers it. But it seems like it doesn't work. You open the map and there's nothing. So I don't have that happen to me very often, um, or ever. I really like. I think whenever I use them, they tend to work. So I don't know if it's something like that. Maybe because I don't open my map instantaneously after I use it. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. Do you have you heard of any causes for that?
No, I've heard like kind of the
Okay.
same kind of
Yeah.
ideas thrown out about it. Personally, I've only had that happen like a couple of times. Like it's not very often, but I'm just like you. Well, like I'll actually bring in one per encounter, but that's
Yeah.
it. I won't bring in multiple. Like they stack in threes, right, in
I
your
think yeah.
inventory. And this is the same thing as the armor plates. Like maybe they need to like limit the amount um, that they bring in,
Mm,
or do the same thing as the armor plates, where it's like you could only
one per
bring
slot.
like one takes up
Yeah.
yeah, one per slot exactly. um, just because like again, people gaming the
Yeah, it's a
system,
very popular
and
thing to game the system. Yeah, because it's such a useful device. Yeah, with people doing nefarious things to try to make more than they, trade them back and forth with each other, and end up with a whole inventory full of them. I played a game today on, I think it was battery, I'm pretty sure, and there was definitely one spuddy player in the lobby, and the rest of the people in the lobby seemed fairly straightforward people. I got lucky, and at the very beginning of the match, I was close to signals, and so I was heading towards signals, and I heard someone coming. So I figured, okay, someone's coming to signals. I'll let them come, and I got the guy, and it happened to be the sweaty guy, and he had like five portables on him. I'm like, what? Seriously?
yeah.
So I had portables for that match. I
Yeah.
was like, ding, ding, ding. Yes, but yeah, the really sweaty players quite often will bring quite a few in with them, and it makes you wonder why they're bringing how they bring in so many in with them. How, why that they are they really building that many, or because as soon as you get your um, water distillation to max level,
Yeah.
all these consumables are instantaneous craft. So you're crafting them. You can craft it. I don't even know how many you can craft in an hour, or if you just kept crafting, but then you'd burn through your
Yeah.
materials like crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
but yeah, portable, probably one of
uh,
the most useful, popular things. in the non-healing.
Yeah, and yeah, typically, like you said, people who bring in a lot, they're not really there to like loot or anything. They're just going for the
Yep.
kills, right? So they're essentially just bring them in to hunt and go
Yeah, they're
after
looking
people
for
for
every
sure.
signal and hunting that signal down. Yep.
Exactly. And then last on the list is the only special issue non-medical consumable is the mortar strikes. Um, so this it costs 10,200 material. Crafting time is an hour. Deconstructing it is 2,340 material. And again, that's non shelter
Yep.
upgraded. Um, and what it does is you'll see like a green highlighted area, and you basically hold the trigger and it will drop an airstrike. Um, Kind of like what the anti-mortar or anti-camper feature is, but that's like three airdrops
Yeah.
combined. Um, Now you can't really kill an Outlander with one mortar strike. I think it's two or three at this point.
Mm.
And as of what was it, season 5, where they nerfed it, where
Yeah.
it didn't do damage within
Yeah. If you're in a
buildings.
building, you're safe from it.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So mortar strikes are still kind of useful. Um, I'll use it more on the bigger maps like Anakin, FJ, and most of the time it's not about inflicting damage, but either buying yourself
We're
time
trying to
to either
flush someone
reposition
out. Yeah.
yourself or flush someone else. Like if someone has the high ground on me and I can't move, I try to get the mortar strike on them, and then they have to move, and either I'll push up or I'll reposition or they have to move, right? Um, so really, that's how I find them useful for the most part. Now, if I do get a kill with it, I'm excited because I think it's fun because I literally,
It's
bomb
like a free
someone.
kill.
But it doesn't happen
Yeah.
very often, anyways, that you do get mortar strike kills, but it is kind of cool.
Yeah. And to say, and it's also, it can be really hard to target. Like I find, like trying to adjust it so that the
Hmm.
circle moves where you want it to. I find it really finicky sometimes. I think it's always better if
Yeah,
you're at a bit of an elevation, so it's a little
yeah,
easier to move the circle around. Because if you're at a lower level, then you're trying to move it so it hits something higher. It's really tough. Um, yeah,
yeah.
it can be really finicky to target. That's one thing I'll say.
It's like a sightline type thing, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about like a laser pointer type thing, and you're holding it, and I agree 100%. It is very finicky. And at one point, I think I had posted it on the official Vigor Discord and on Reddit, um, that I threw out the idea of maybe adding mortars to like the firing range or something like that, just so people who don't have the opportunity to use them very often to actually practice, because like I only got decent at using them because I've used so
Yeah.
many, or well, I'm still not that
But
great.
you're better
uh
than I am because I don't use them at
but
all.
yeah, it's like it's
Yeah.
practice, right? Like there was, I think it was this past week or whatnot, like I thought I had placed a mortar down on top of a mountain type thing, and next thing I know, it sounds like I'm bombing Finland instead of like Norway in the game, right? Like I'm not even on the
Yeah.
same in the same country where that landed, because you hear a long distance like boom boom boom. And so
It's like, how did I
it,
mess it up
it, it
so
would just be
badly?
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right. So yeah, it is a useful tool. It's just sometimes it's a little tricky, and you kind of do have to get used to
Yeah.
using it.
One thing you
But
can also do is center it on yourself on purpose, which can
oh
be handy if
yes,
you're like in a house and you know somebody's outside, or if you're in cover and someone's near you, you could center it on yourself and to try to either get rid of them or to distract them as or whatever. So that can be
yeah,
something you do because if you're safe from being the damage and hope to hit somebody who's outside who isn't, yeah, that's one way you can use them for sure. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, and
So,
yeah, that's. Would you have more to say on that?
No, I think that's pretty much
Yeah.
it. Like we've talked about all the consumables. We've thrown out some good strategies. I think if anyone's interested in sharing theirs, like let
Yeah.
us know. And we threw out some ideas for like maybe some buffs and some debuffs to some of the
Hmm.
items. So, no, I think this has actually been a pretty
No,
good episode.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah, for sure. And like we said, this is all the non-medical stuff. We've talked about medical in the past a bit, and they're all pretty straightforward. So that's why we really didn't want to figure it was worth talking about those. We wanted to talk about the consumables, whether popular or not popular, and strategies for using them. So hope you enjoyed it. That is the episode. Um, Thanks for listening or watching. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate it. It helps us, and maybe you'll get more people in and enjoying not just the podcast, but thinking about vigor more and getting them out in the outlands, so that we can see more people out there and having fun. Because still love the game,
Yep,
so want to see more people playing it. But again,
exactly.
I've been Dr. Anton,
And I'm DJ
and
Spencer.
we'll talk to you soon. And have fun out in the outlands. Have a good night.
Bye.